This content is intended for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
So tonight we are discussing Henry VIII and beheadings. Just check that Kate got the request. So speaking of beheadings, did anybody see the news today about Steve Bannon? Yeah, no. Totally thought we were gonna get on here today and have a hot minute away from the drama there with all of the election nonsense. We are having some technical difficulties. Hold on a sec here. But no, Steve Bannon called for the execution, or for the beheading, excuse me, of Dr. Fauci and of the head of the FBI, Christopher, oh shoot, what's his name? Christopher Whalen? Something?
Yay!
Yay! I was just talking about Steve Bannon calling for the execution of
Right.
no, I forgot both of the names of Dr. Fauci and Christopher Fauci, sorry. And Christopher I can't remember his last name. And usually I'm on my tablet so I can look shit up on my phone.
Right.
It starts with a W. And I want to say it's like Wayland or Walker, and I'm probably way off.
Let me see. You had sent me the thing. Let me see if that said it.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to run down and grab a tablet real quick.
The thing just says FBI director, so that's not helping.
Okay.
But
yeah,
that's okay.
I had it a second ago. Where did
Yeah.
I put my tablet? Tablet. There, yay, I have a tablet.
Yay.
So, yeah, that light is harsh. Okay, so Henry VIII.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I didn't get to do as much research into this as I had wanted to, but I still did quite a bit. So, hopefully
it's been a week.
This works out well. It has. It's been a rough week for sure. But yeah, so last week, the last recording that I was part of, which was not last week, nor the last recording. Let me figure that one out real quick. We started talking about Henry VIII just as everything was ending.
Yeah.
Just as like the video was about to cut out, so we didn't really get.
We got cut off right in the middle of you trying to ask a question.
Yeah, and so
what did I do?
Basically, we wanted to do an episode about beheadings and Henry VIII. And so I think where it kind of started was that I was saying that the guillotine, when it was originally invented, was the French were trying to make a more ethical way of executing people, which, like, sometimes when you think about it, you're like, how is the guillotine more ethical?
It really is, though.
But when you look into how beheadings were prior to the guillotine, it really actually is a much nicer way to try and execute someone. With beheadings prior to that, a lot of times they were done either with a sword or an axe. And depending on how sharp the sword or axe was, and then also how skilled the executioner was, and how much attention he was paying to what he was doing, made a big difference in how quickly the execution went and how painless it was. So it was often advised that the person being executed should give a gold coin to the headsman or the executioner to ensure that he did a good job. And one of the stories that we were kind of talking about before everything had cut off on that previous video was Mary, Queen of Scots. And
it was her then.
So she was not one of Henry VIII's wives. She was actually one of his nieces, or not one of his daughters either. She was one of his nieces.
No, she was a cousin, I believe.
She was a cousin of Elizabeth, his daughter. So she was kind of like his niece. And so he was already dead by the time she was executed. So I was looking into that a little bit, and I guess she fled Scotland to London to go to see
Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth and be like, hey, can you help protect me and help me
Yep.
get my reign back in Scotland? And Elizabeth instead put her in jail or prison for like 18 years.
Yeah, well, and I mean, in all fairness, and I mean, as a person with Scottish heritage myself, and I'm still gonna say it, that she kind of screwed this pooch on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, her bid for England was stupid. Scotland was going through so much stuff at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, so when she was 16,
Mm-hmm.
and well, he was prince at the time, Francis, I can't remember if he has any numbers after his name.
Was he like the
it was Francis of France.
Right. It was like the Dauphine or something like that. Francis the
So-
Dauphine, I think, from when I was looking her up earlier.
Yeah, so she was engaged. They were engaged at a young age, and she married. When they married, she was 16. And
the
he was
Dauphine
15.
of France, Francis.
Yes, and he died like, I don't know, a year later from an ear infection. They were not married very long.
Mm-hmm.
But it was during that time that she was getting that pressure to claim the throne in England. And the reason that she had ground to start on that in the first place
Mm-hmm.
was because Elizabeth was seen as the bastard child, which is something you and I talked about last week that we didn't get a chance to talk about. But because of the divorce from Catherine.
Yeah, from Catherine of Aragon.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth was seen as the bastard child, and a lot of people did not feel that she had a legitimate claim to the throne,
Right.
which is hilarious because she brought all those noises are my Kindle coming back to life. Which is hilarious because she's the one that led England into the golden age. But
Mm-hmm.
anyhow, because she was seen as the bastard child, and because Mary Queen of Scots was a descendant of the Tudors,
Mm-hmm.
it was seen that her claim was more legitimate to the throne than Elizabeth's by a lot of people.
Right.
But it was stupid. Like, seriously, Scotland was going through so much at the time. There were wars and invasions, and she wasn't even in Scotland. Like, for a really, really long time, she wasn't even in Scotland.
Yeah, when I was reading it was like,
Her brother was regent.
yeah, she was queen from like 6 days old or something like that.
Yeah.
And
her
they
dad
were like,
died.
send her to France. Like,
Yep.
she was in
Yep.
France most of the time, like a
Oh yeah, 'cause
huge
she
portion
was-
of her
she
life,
was-
and being queen, she was actually
Yeah, I
in
mean,
France.
like the second Francis was born, she was betrothed to him.
Yeah.
Which makes it really sad that he died because they grew up together, and
Yeah.
then, yeah, that was sucky.
That is really sad. But yeah, so to her beheading.
Sorry, well, I just-
Oh, no.
Info dump on Mary Queen of Scots.
It's good. We need this info dump, so don't feel bad about that.
It's my artistic superpower.
Right. So she was sent to prison for about 18 years. And while she was in prison, I guess she was writing letters to someone. I didn't really look at a huge amount into depth into that, but
I think, well, now I'm trying to remember if her husband at the time was, it was either her husband, no, because her kid was only 6 when she had to flee Scotland. And I think her husband at the time had already been executed for treason because she had, so it was a while after Francis died.
Mm-hmm.
And she married this guy. She'd been pressured into it because he was like some cousin of something, whatever. He also
Mm-hmm.
had what could be seen as a legitimate claim to the throne in England. I
Right.
forgot to put the cat downstairs.
That's- I have both dogs like sitting right next to me, and
There
at
you
one
go.
point, if Anna
She's
falls asleep,
so
she will start
loud.
snoring loudly. So
Um.
nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so this other guy, and I can't remember his name, but he was a total douche.
Yeah,
And
I
he
mean, I
kept-
have the article up here, so I can probably look it up.
Yeah. So he that was one of those things where they were just really pushed
Henry
into it.
Stuart Lord Darnley.
Yes. So
And he died.
she was really pushed
As-
into that one because of the connection of it strengthened
Mhm.
together, it strengthened their claim. But he was always pushing to be shoot, now I forget what it's called, but there's when royals marry each other, you
Mhm.
can you have queen, king, and the spouse to the one who actually is the blood on the throne
Mhm.
can either be a king or queen consort,
Oh yeah.
or which means that they serve in an advisory capacity, but in the event of the death of their spouse, assuming that they have no children, they're not even they're done. They're done with that country. Seriously? Oh my gosh. Speaking of pain in the ass queens, what was I saying? Okay, yeah, so he was pushing for the other one, which I can't remember the title right now,
Mhm.
but it would be if she were to pass away, he would get
Then
the
he would-
throne in Scotland.
Okay.
Yeah,
and so I was reading something about he gets murdered.
Yeah, so this is what happened is that the guy that she ended up marrying after him, which that one, for all intents and purposes, like as far as anyone can tell, she was actually in love with that one.
Right.
And this other guy was such a pain in the ass.
Let's see.
He was such a pain in the ass. And he was gross. I'm
trying to find that.
So
James Hepburn, the Earl of Bothwell.
Okay, yeah. So
that was the one that
what happened
really
is
loved.
that Henry died in an explosion.
Mhm.
But the problem was the house or the established, I think it was like an inn or something that was whatever. The establishment exploded, but his body had been dragged out and murdered separately from the explosion. Like whoever did it screwed it up.
Right.
So that was where the grounds of treason came in, that both of them were
Like a
sentenced for. Because it was just a thing of like everybody knew what went down there.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, from what I was reading, her actually being like, I think that was what led to her being imprisoned.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
as far as her being executed, it was because she had written letters while in prison.
Yes.
The
Yes. So the imprisonment was because of that, because and I don't remember what exactly the tipping point on that was, because they were married for a couple of years before they were both convicted. And like I'm trying to remember if he was imprisoned or executed at the time that she fled to England. It was one of the two. And that's why she ran off. But her son stayed in Scotland because he was the next in line for the throne. So he served as regent until she passed.
Right.
Oh my gosh, this is why she usually
But yeah, so while in prison, I guess they were tracking her letters, and she
Yes, I'm trying to look up who it was that
a good idea for them to try to overthrow Elizabeth. And that was what led Elizabeth to have
Yes, because if she could overthrow Elizabeth, then she could beat the charges against her.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
internet. There we go. Hello, internet.
But so she was beheaded after that. And I guess, I don't know if it was because, oh no, I was reading this. So she, the first blow hit her in the back of the head instead of on the neck.
Mm.
And then the second blow didn't fully sever. So it took 3 hits with the axe for her to be beheaded.
Who was she writing letters to?
Probably a very painful death. Very painful beheading. And that's why the French revolutionaries thought that a guillotine would be more humane. Humane, not ethical. I mean ethical too, but humane I think was more the word I meant earlier. And that was why.
Okay, so she was forced to abdicate. Go away, little ad. She was forced to abdicate by the Scottish nobles over the whole dead husband or murdered husband thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she fled to Queen Elizabeth. So she was, I'm trying to see who it was she was writing letters to. Yeah, 6 days old. She was 6 days old when she was queen. Okay, so Henry VIII was her great uncle. So you were right.
Yeah, okay.
A niece. Mary was initially betrothed to Henry VIII. Oh, so I was totally wrong about when they were betrothed, because she was originally betrothed to Edward.
Mm-hmm.
Henry VIII's son Edward. But, you know, he died.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't even that he died. It was when he annulled the marriage with Catherine. The Scottish Catholics were like,
never mind.
no.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that
happened. But then he did die. He died.
Edward
was like
very 16. Young. He was, yeah.
Okay, so she was 5 when she was sent to France. So she was 5 when the
when that betrothal happened. Or say that.
I'm just trying to find who it was she was
writing
letters to. So yeah. Hi, welcome to our episode about Henry VIII and beheadings. We're going to be talking about Mary, Queen of Scots.
Well, I can get while you look that up, I can start talking about Henry VIII from here.
Okay.
But I just kind of wanted to go over that first because that was kind of what got us into the topics of beheadings on that episode. So, but yes, so Henry VIII, as I was saying in that episode, I've always been very intrigued by the story of Henry VIII, and I believe a big part of that is because 3 of his wives were named Catherine, which is also my name. So
yes, 3 Catherines, 2 Annes, and a Jane.
Yes, and so that made me definitely want to look into this English king that killed all of his wives. I also was very obsessed with murder. That hasn't really changed either from a young age. So I was like, oh, this is definitely a story that I want to know all of the things about. So, but yes, so first, Henry's first wife was Catherine of Aragon. And I didn't really look up how young he was when they got married. Catherine of Aragon had originally been married to his older brother, who then died because he was very sick. And
I'll look that up in a second.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just trying to figure out who she was. So the site's wonderful. It has a lot of information, but it also has a lot of information.
But yeah, so he was 17 when he became king and then married Catherine of Aragon, who had been married to his older brother who had died after being sick. And they were married for about 23 years. So he was in his early 30s or mid 30s when he wanted to annul the marriage with her. She had only given birth to daughters. Was it only one? Was it only Mary? Or
yeah, she just had Mary.
Okay. And never had a son. So I guess at that point he had a bastard son, and one of his options.
Yeah, that's where the movie
Yeah.
Other Boleyn girl comes in, which is
Mhm.
like so full of fiction. Don't
Yeah.
don't quote me on. Now go watch this.
Those
But that is
those
part
movies
of
don't necessarily
that's
have a lot of historical fact. They kind of run with it, but I also watched the show The Tudors forever ago. Also not very accurate, but entertaining as shit, I guess.
I need to watch
They
that
were
one. It was
they
just
were
one of those
attractive, and they
things.
kept all having sex with each other, and it was great entertainment.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, at the time that I first tried to start watching it,
Hmm.
like everything I was trying to watch started out with like naked people screwing. And it just, I mean,
Yep.
it's not the end of the world in television show, but it's like every once in a while I'd like to just watch a show where people aren't naked and screwing.
That's true.
Like,
Sometimes you're just not in the mood for that, you know?
I found the information
Oh, okay.
on Mary. So the Catholics in Scotland were planning to assassinate Elizabeth. Elizabeth was Protestant. And so Mary had corresponded with one of the plotters, Anthony Babington.
Okay.
So when Elizabeth's spymaster uncovered the letters, well, that was it.
Yep. Yeah,
She's
definitely don't do that. Don't write letters about killing the queen while you're imprisoned by the queen at the time. She's definitely gonna have people reading your letters, okay? Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's how you die, by 3 separate whacks to the neck.
Yes. Okay.
Because beheadings are not fun.
Yeah.
But that so Henry didn't want to be married to Catherine anymore, mostly because he wanted an heir to the throne. He was really worried about that. And so the options that he had, one was that he could try and get his bastard son recognized, but he didn't think that was really going to work, and he was going to need the Pope's approval on that. All sorts of things. There was another way that he could find an heir. I can't remember what that one was. Or he could find another wife that was of childbirthing age. Mm-hmm. And so he decided to annul his marriage with Catherine of Aragon.
Yeah, because Catherine was older than him.
Yeah, she was older than him. She had been married to his older brother. So I believe when they got married, he was 17 and she was 23. And at the time that he tried to annul the marriage, he was about like 35 and she was 40 or 41. And so, of course, he tried to get it annulled through the Pope, through the proper channels, and the Pope was not going to allow it. And that turned into the whole religious reform that happened in England and started the Church of England. And so then he annulled his marriage to Catherine and instead married Anne Boleyn, which is someone that he'd had an affair with her sister Mary while he was married to Catherine, but Anne would not have an affair with him like her sister did. And so he was very interested in her, and so in annulling the marriage to Catherine, he was like, now I can propose an actual marriage and she'll be the queen. Now she'll probably want to have something to do with me, and since she refused to be his mistress. So he married Anne, and she immediately got pregnant and had Elizabeth. But again, it's not a boy. So she kept trying to produce another heir for him, and the next pregnancy ended in miscarriage, or was a falsely reported miscarriage.
Yeah,
falsely reported pregnancy. Either she was saying she was pregnant when she wasn't, or she miscarried. Mm-hmm. Then she got pregnant again right before Catherine of Aragon died. So Catherine of Aragon died, and they were all excited because the queen is pregnant, and hopefully this time it's going to be a boy. And they were excited to not have, his ex-wife on their back anymore. and they had a big tournament, and Henry got badly injured in this tournament and was unconscious for quite a while, and she was so distraught about this injury that happened to him that it caused her to go into a miscarriage with this pregnancy as well. And after she miscarried, they did find that it had been a boy. So if he hadn't been injured in the tournament, and if that hadn't been such a stressful event for her, maybe she would have been able to produce an heir for him. But unfortunately, that is not what happened. And Anne was also very opinionated, and she didn't like being the subservient wife, the subservient queen, and she argued a lot with a lot of his advisors as well. And so some of his advisors decided to kind of turn on her and basically told Henry a bunch of stuff that they felt that she was doing, even though they didn't really have a lot of proof. And one of them was that she was having multiple affairs, including one with her brother, and that she was practicing witchcraft. So, but I don't think they really had, I'm trying to think if they had a trial for her. But apparently just having an affair when you're the queen is treason, because you're basically making it questionable if the heir to the throne is actually the heir to the throne. So in general, if you're found as the queen to be having an affair, that alone is treason, and you are not necessarily even going to have a trial for that. So Anne gets locked in the Tower of London, and the men were executed first, and then eventually she was executed. But you can tell that Henry still really cared about her, because he specifically hired an executioner from France for being a very good executioner and for having a very sharp sword. Like, he wanted to make sure that Anne's beheading was not painful. And he took a lot of care in that. And basically, before her beheading, like, she said very typical stuff that you say in your last words before an execution, but she never admitted any guilt. You know, she just basically did the, you know, take my spirit, Lord, kind of thing, and then was beheaded. So prior to her execution, what was that?
Oh, Google did a thing.
Oh. So
I clicked where it said Catherine of Aragon, and then it was like Catherine of Siena. What?
You're like, that's not what I was trying to click on.
Okay.
But yeah, so but before Anne even had the last miscarriage, it is believed that Henry was having an affair with Jane Seymour at that point.
Yeah. Well, and wasn't there a question about incest with Anne?
Yes, she was accused of having multiple affairs, including one with her own brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was charged with treason because she was having affairs, with incest because one of them was with her brother, and with witchcraft. But Jane Seymour was having an affair with Henry, and she was flaunting it in front of Anne. They say that if it wasn't Henry being injured in the tournament that caused the miscarriage, it could have been that Anne went into a fit of rage because she saw Jane Seymour sitting in Henry's lap. And prior to that, Jane Seymour would go around the court with a locket with a picture of Henry in it that he had given her. And she would purposely open it in front of Anne and show off the picture of Henry that she had in a locket around her neck. And I guess Anne would get so angry that she ran over and like ripped it off of her neck with such force that she cut her own fingers on the chain. So
Catherine was married to his older brother for 5 months.
5 months, yeah. before his brother got sick. That sounds right. Yeah. So after the beheading of Anne, Henry marries Jane Seymour. And Jane Seymour has the only son that was, well, the only legitimate son. He did have the bastard son that I believe was older than Mary, but he, so Jane had a legitimate son heir, which was Edward, but she died from an infection as a result of the painful birth of Edward about a week later. And so I've read a lot that like she was his favorite wife and that he often missed her in later years, that he would talk about how much he missed Jane.
Mm.
And it could just be that she was his favorite because she gave him a boy. We don't know. Or maybe he really had some kind of love for her. I don't know. You know, dude was kind of crazy. But so then after that, after Jane Seymour, he allowed his advisors to pick another wife for him. They wanted one that would help with like political things going on there. And so his next wife was Anne of Cleves. And I'm trying to remember where she was from. Maybe let me try and look that up. Sorry.
The bastard son was younger than Mary.
Oh, he was. Okay. Sorry. So I was wrong
Yeah.
about that.
And his mother was Elizabeth Blount.
Yeah. And that's, so Queen Elizabeth was named after his mom. Where was she from? I'm trying to...
Oh, the second Anne?
Yeah.
I can find that.
That's what I'm trying to look up. Like I have a page of information pulled up on her, but I'm like, wait, where was she?
See, this is the problem I kept running into in my episodes too. Like, I just saw it. Where was it?
Well, she seems to have been from like...
Anne of Cleves.
Yeah. So, I mean, it some kind of Scandinavian country, it looks like.
Yeah.
Or...
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot to say. I'm going
maybe
to
German.
post the portraits of his wives.
Oh,
after
okay.
the
Thank
video's done. Yes.
Well, it's not just immediately telling me which country she was from, but
German?
yeah, she might have been German. Because I was like, at first the names looked like Scandinavian, but then I saw something else and I'm like, oh wait, that's German. So yeah. So she may have been German. And they had a portrait of her painted. What was that?
It says she was German. And,
okay.
And
so she was German. So they had a painter paint a portrait of her and send it to Henry. And other people talked about how lovely she was. And he was like, yeah, okay, I'll marry her. But basically, once she actually came to England, he was like, oh, no, I do not like this one. Which is why in the other episode I was joking about the ugly wife, which was Anne of Cleves. And I guess from what they're saying, they're like, they don't think that the painter really changed what she looked like that much. They don't think that she was like a really unattractive woman. They think he just didn't really like her. And when they met in person, there was just neither of them felt it. And so he was like, I think I want to annul this marriage. And she was like, yeah, I'm good with that. That'd be fine. We can annul this marriage. And so he was like, here's some property you can go live on and be far away from me. And she goes, okay, I'll do that. And so that was basically what happened to Anne of Cleves. No, she said that they never consummated the marriage either. So no children, nothing there. And so then apparently in like I gave you guys a chance to pick a wife for me and you really screwed it up. So now I'm going to go for this 17-year-old over here, even though I'm in my 40s.
Oh, looking at this portrait of Anna Cleves, she does look. I mean, it's that just barely over plain look
Mm-hmm.
where they don't look, they're not ugly. There's just
Right.
nothing remarkable about them.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'll look
Yeah.
at her other pictures.
But so at that point, he married Catherine Howard. She was 17. She was also, I think, a cousin of Anne Boleyn. And like that family was trying one more time to get someone in their family to marry the king to kind of bring good fortune on their family type thing. Sad news, you guys. Didn't work out very well for them. And apparently Catherine Howard had 2 different lovers during the time that she was married to Henry VIII. One was someone that she used to be engaged to, but never told anybody that she was engaged to. So they're pretty sure that they had a sexual relationship prior to her being married to Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And had she said that, he probably could have annulled the marriage instead of beheading her, but she never told anybody about that, so they found out about it later. And then she was also having an affair with another man named Thomas Culpeper.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the other man that she was having an affair with, the one that she had previously been engaged to, I think he was jealous of the new affair with Thomas Culpeper. And so I believe he told the king that they were having an affair and that she was having an affair with Thomas Culpeper. So,
I mean, and not that affairs are okay, but in her defense, like, Henry VIII was old and gross
mm-hmm.
and an asshole. He had gout so badly that he could not walk. He couldn't get up. Like,
she's 17.
17 years old. Married to this gross, old,
Mm-hmm.
gouty asshole of a man who just, like, arbitrarily throws his wives away.
Right? Yeah. Any fans of the Tudors TV show that had been on, I think, HBO or whatever? He did not look like Ian Somerhalder. Okay, not how this
No,
really
that's
works
the
in
thing
real
is
life.
whenever they do the shows, they're like, let's find some handsome guy, and it's totally because they want to play on the romance element.
Yeah.
Because if they showed like fat old nasty gouty, and it smells.
Oh yeah. It's gross.
Yeah, show him like that, then people couldn't romanticize about him.
Right. Mm. Yeah, but so Henry finds out about the affairs, and he's very mad. He's very mad that his young, pretty 17-year-old wife is obviously screwing a bunch of young men when he's not paying attention. So Thomas Culpeper was beheaded, and the other man, I don't remember his name. I think I was looking it up, and it was something that didn't seem like something I was going to be able to pronounce very well on here, so I didn't really memorize it. He was drawn and quartered, the one who admitted to the affair and alerted the king to the other affair. He was not beheaded, he was drawn and quartered. Probably a lot worse. Ugh. Not fun. And then after he was dead, he was beheaded. And then both of them had their heads placed on spikes outside of the Tower of London. And about a month and a half later, Catherine Howard was beheaded. And she had to leave the Tower of London and see her 2 lovers' heads on spikes that had been there for a month and a half on her way to her own execution. And I guess she had been so worried about the execution and how everything was going to look and how everything was going to go down that she begged someone to bring her basically like the bench that she would place her head on before the beheading, and they brought it to her in the Tower of London so she could practice how she was going to lay her head down on the bench for her beheading. And then there are a lot of reports that she said something to the effect of, more than wanting to be a queen, she just wanted to be the wife of Thomas Culpeper. But she never said that. Like, they say that there's no actual account of her saying anything anywhere close to that. That basically she just said, you know, Father, I commend my spirit to thee, was basically all that she said before she was beheaded. And they just said that she looked very regal, but incredibly pale and terrified. Because, yeah, she was, you know, I don't know that she was still 17 at that point. It might have been a couple of years later, but, you know, she probably was not more than like 19 when she was
pretty young.
beheaded. Yeah, you'd be terrified. You'd be white as a ghost and terrified about what was about to happen, I believe. Most people would have that experience at around 19.
Well, and gosh, there was the whole religion thing too, because, you know, Henry VIII had split from the Catholic religion when, in order to annul his marriage with Catherine of Aragon, however you say it.
Yeah.
So, and that was what, they formed the Church of England after that?
Yeah, Church of England, which is like where the Protestant religion came from.
Yeah. So, yeah, hey, you're a kid about to get beheaded, and maybe you're going through an existential crisis. Religion in England is really screwed up at this point.
Right. And yeah, like, and Henry did not take the same care with Catherine that he did with Anne. There was not the same, like, I'm going to bring in this, you know, special executioner. I'm going to make sure that the sword is really sharp. I'm going to make sure that it doesn't hurt you that much. Like, he did not do that with her. There weren't any stories of like, oh, it took, you know, this much effort, but it, you know, so I don't know that it was necessarily botched like in the same way that had happened with Mary Queen of Scots. But there was another story in this article that I was reading. Let me see if I can find that again. Let's see. Sorry. Oh, okay. So the Danish Queen Caroline Matilda of Great Britain. No. Sorry. Margaret Pole, the 8th Countess of Salisbury, was said to have required up to 10 strokes before decapitation was achieved. They say sometimes, like, the historians can't really agree on it, though. They say that she refused to lay her head on the block or submit to a sentence where she had received no trial. She told the executioner that if he would have her head, he must win it the best way he could, and then kept running around and making the executioner chase her with his axe.
Be like some shit we would pull.
Right? Absolutely. Like, I don't know. There,
like, I mean, like, it would be a painful death, but it would still be like, giant fuck you.
Right? It's like, there's so many times that I wonder if I had been around during those times, like how much of a pain in the ass I would have been and how much of a brat I would have been to everybody. But then sometimes I'm also like, or I would have died at 6. Let's be honest here.
I would have been executed so fast.
Yeah.
Because I am mouthy.
Oh, I was especially mouthy as a child. Like, I remember I did not like old people when I was a kid. I was super rude to everybody, but especially old people. If they tried to talk to me, I hated them. I hated Santa. I thought Santa smelled bad because, you know, he kind of smelled like his costume's been locked in an attic for a while. Not that I knew that that's what the smell was. But I hated how every Santa smelled, and I would always cry when I was put on Santa's lap. And I would just be really rude to Santa. Huh?
Oh, I'm trying to figure out, because the culture of nobility for women was they were supposed to have waist-long hair.
Oh yeah.
Well, even longer than waist line, but long hair. But they weren't allowed to touch it to move it. They had to like dip their head as they and which was like they had those cultural things because that is not my hair, that's a hair on the screen. Okay, so they had those cultural things because it kept nobility from being able to pose as peasants and peasants from being able to pose as nobility.
Oh,
There were
okay.
very specific ways that they had to walk and very specific ways, rules about their hair and stuff. So if you put a noble, you dress them up as a peasant, they're still going to walk and move the way that they were trained to. So like with women, with their dresses were specifically cut that if they did not have that stick straight posture in royalty, they would fall off their shoulders and expose their breasts.
Oh.
And they were also 2 feet longer than, so you'd have where the hem should end, and then there were 2 more feet of fabric after that.
Oh, jeez.
So they had to do like this swaying the hip kick thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it, one to keep, because of the whole not being able to pose as other things, but another reason was to keep them from running because running is unladylike.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, so they had like weird rules like that, and so I was trying to look up, but Google hates it when I ask very specific questions.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to look up if they were allowed to touch their hair to move it during the execution,
Mm-hmm.
or if that was somebody else's job.
Oh, okay. That was also something that they said in what I was reading about Mary Queen of Scots, was that she had like gorgeous auburn hair her whole life, and when she was executed, I don't know if they were just trying to like move her head
I
after
was
the
just reading
execution.
about that. Like they
or
said,
what
the
it was.
executioner held up her head by the
Oh yeah,
by
that's
her
what it was.
hair.
He held up her head by her hair, and it was a wig,
Yep.
and the wig
And that's
fell
when her
off.
head rolled off. And she was the one that I was mistakenly said was it said that her mouth kept moving after she'd been beheaded
Mm-hmm.
because her head like rolled across the stage platform. And same thing. And they said her lips were still moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was her as well. But yeah, so the wig came off and showed that she actually had very short gray hair at that point in her life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and apparently Anna wants to join us. Is that an Anna?
Puppy.
Anna, say hi, Anna. Oh, there's a Penny. Yeah, because the puppers are always with me.
It's our animal episode today.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and so other random information about the guillotine would be that the last execution by guillotine in France was in 1977. So that was their primary means of execution up until 1977. And then they stopped using it, I think, in 81 is when they were finally like, okay, we're done with the guillotine. But they hadn't executed anybody in a few years. So the last execution was 77.
I need to find that picture I was telling you about where the kids were like playing with the toy guillotine.
Yes.
So screwed up. So it was the upper part where it would have been a blade was a wooden block. And you gotta think, like, I don't know. We talked about this in the Werewolf of Dole episode. Like, kids do the weirdest shit for entertainment.
Yeah, we do.
And it was like Darwin Award moments. So like, hey, let's stick your head in this fake guillotine and we're gonna drop a block of wood on your neck. Like, that's not gonna hurt.
Right. Although now that's just making me think about we watched The Addams Family last week. The original Addams Family movie. And watching Wednesday trying to execute Pugsley throughout the entire movie is just hilarious. And how it's like Morticia keeps catching her trying to execute Pugsley, and it's like She's not like telling her, no, you can't execute your brother. It's more like, not before dinner.
Mm.
Like, you'll have to do that later. We're running late to this thing. But it's
Did you
never
see that thing?
execute your brother.
Oh, sorry.
Huh?
Did you see that thing? Sorry, it's been going around where like it's written into the script. The guy who wrote it was like, Morticia and Gomez want to, we'll say screw because we were trying to keep this a little bit more.
Yeah.
They want to screw. Their only goal is to screw. Everything is about them screwing.
It was like, I know this is a child's movie, but it's really important.
Yep.
And then, yeah, so I've seen that going around on the internet, and then I was watching the original Addams Family last week, and I paid more attention. And while I've always known that that kind of is how Gomez and Morticia are,
Oh yeah, they're super into each other.
Noticed it even more. That, like, yes.
Wanna go play executing your brother? That's cool.
Right?
Keeps you guys busy.
I think the best part is at the end when, like, the bad guys have captured Morticia, and Thing has alerted Gomez that he needs to go save her, and she's like tied up and being tortured, and they're both being so turned on by it once Gomez is there, and they're both just like, can we continue this later? And they're like, we're trying to murder your wife right now, Gomez. Can you stop trying to like screw her right in front of us and let us kill her?
Yeah.
It's like, even though you pay attention to that previously in the movie after reading that little script post that's been going around, it's like, I am noticing even more how very sexual they are.
Shamefully, it's
funny.
been years, but I think it's on Netflix right now. I should rewatch it.
Yeah, I think so.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I seem to have watched it on something like Netflix or Hulu.
Yeah, because I know they had it on there right around Halloween, and
Mm-hmm.
I would think it'd still be on there, but it's Netflix.
Yeah.
They never sure.
Yeah, we never know. Yeah. But yeah, that was pretty hilarious with them. In watching it too, every time I watch that movie, it reminds me how much I do want to be part of the Addams Family myself. But I never feel like I can really pull off the elegance of Morticia, if that makes sense. She's a very elegant woman, and they are difficult shoes to fill. So I'm watching it with my girlfriend Nola, and I was like, can we be them some point in the future? She's like, sure. And I was like, you can be Morticia and I'll be Gomez. And then, like, a few scenes later, they have the part where Morticia says something in French, and Gomez is just like, oh my god, now you're talking to me in French? Cannot handle this. And I was like, actually, now that I think about it, if you talked to me in French, I also would have that same, I'm Gomez. I've been Gomez this whole time, and I was not aware until now that I am actually Gomez and not Morticia at all. So there we go. I just have to draw the little pencil mustache like Gustavo used to do.
Yeah. I'm watching you. Don't even. So, actually makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. She is, though. She's super elegant. She's just, like, effortless in everything she does.
Mm-hmm. She really is. And the Addams Family always made me want to, like, learn how to tango and stuff like that, too. Like, they're so extra in all the ways I love.
Yeah. I really want to do, like, I've always loved to dance, but I'm such a white girl dancer.
Yeah, there's no way I'd be able to learn to actually appropriately tango because I'm a terrible dancer.
Yeah, and I'm like, I really want to go take dance classes, but I really don't want to make a fool of myself in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I took a twerking class once,
Mhm.
I did. I paid money and I took a twerking class. And I am not a good twerker at all. And yes, the class made me better at it, but better than really bad is still bad. And on top of that, we needed to have knee pads for the twerking class, and I didn't know what kind of knee pads I had to buy. And so by the time I found out from the teacher what knee pads I needed and had ordered them online and then had received them, I was so behind in the class and had hurt my knees so badly by practicing in class without the correct knee pads that by the time I got the knee pads, like, it was too late and I was just kind of giving up on the whole twerking thing. But you know, Utah does have people that offer
26
twerking
seconds
classes.
remaining. What the crap?
Oh, it's almost time to go.
No, I think of like Malcolm in the Middle when the mom was learning to dance in the dance class. That's me.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't think I was good. I would just be bad. Okay, so join us next week.